Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
He haven't got it! He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still such trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's gonna do it! Big Barry!
The penultimate time this season, we're going racing in the VWSR of NRAS series here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Only a couple of times for the drivers to try and get those points on the board. Not long left in the season, but a lot of racing still to unfold. 1.2 hours of racing to take place here at the most historic of American circuits at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And up in the commentary booth for JPB Broadcasting, it's myself, Darren Thacker, James Parfitt alongside me, and pressing the buttons to make the broadcast look pretty. James, 2 rounds to go. Indianapolis, I mean, this is going to hopefully be quite an exciting race with a lot of the title protagonists involved.
Yeah, we've got 80 minutes of racing here as well. There is an interesting talk of rain. There's a 40% chance that we may have rain through this, so this could be a very exciting one as well. As you can see there on the schedule, we've got one more round to go on the 17th of October at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, going to be an exciting one. A little while to wait for these drivers as well before we get to the finale. But for this race here in Indianapolis, we've got to have a look at the circuit. Because, of course, Indianapolis known mostly for the oval, but of course this road course is used very heavily, mostly in American single-seater and in sports car racing. Very good circuit, isn't it, James? Interesting to have that little chicane into the back straight towards turn 7, and you probably expect most of the overtaking at turn 1 and turn 7.
Yeah, if I'm honest, which, you know, I might as well be, I'm not a lover of this circuit. I think that they could have done more with it and utilised the banking of the actual oval, but they didn't. The cars don't actually hit the banking at all, unfortunately, and it's not my favourite circuit, I've got to be honest with you. The infield's very, very slippery. The cars aren't loving it. The entrance into turn 1 is going to be a little bit of a nightmare for some. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how this one works out here, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the race goes with the strategy and some of the important parts of the race with an hour, and more than an hour, I should say, on the clock. Slightly longer than our usual races. Corner exit onto the long straights is going to be so crucial because most of these corners are medium speed. And like it says on the screen, Indy chaos can always unfold. Down at that chicane, big pace differences in terms of the Hypercars and the GT3s. We could see quite a lot of changing of the order and maybe a couple of incidents through that part of the racetrack. For the strategies, the GT3s are really going to be just using a couple of stops. They might be able to stretch it to the 1 if they're lucky, but I think a lot of fuel saving is going to have to be done in both stint 1 and stint 2 for that to happen. We might see some drivers bail early and commit to that 2 stop. Whilst over in the Hypercars, what we've got is a slightly different picture. We're looking at maybe 3 stops, but drivers may be able to do it on 2 as well. Again, it's going to be a little bit of a fuel save from those guys to make sure they can get it on 2 stops, but if some drivers push it too hard at the start of the race, it's going to be 3. Coming into the race, of course, penultimate round. Championships can be won in any penultimate round of the season. In the LMGT3 AM standings, if we start from the bottom, Alan Holden is the driver that may be able to leave Indianapolis with the title in his hands. Stephen Miller is in second and not far back, 7 points behind, with Ryan Poulbert-Ray's still in title contention just about, and James Bode's in there as well. Alexander McQuarrie's fallen out of it alongside Sean Kelly. Colin McMillan, William Shilting, John Schmidlinski, and Carl Struhl are in the top 10 in standings. The drivers, as we progress over to the pros, it's Eduardo Beninca who could pretty much wrap up the title tonight. 42-point lead he has over JT Tam. He doesn't have to do too much to make sure that title is going to him. Yuji Mizuo is far too far back to be in any title contention, with Michael Locke not too far behind him. Matthias Santos is just behind Johnny Gutierrez in 5th and 6th. Matthew Overton, Max Sunderlap, James Walker and Chris Dunham is in the top 10. One of lots more drivers in the GT3, they are a lot further back. Ross Smith down in P13, and watch out for him. In the Hypercar AMS, it's Jerry Chen who could take the title tonight after a fantastic run of form, as you can see. He leads Scar Pope by 34 points. Wayne Galvin and Lanny Hall are in 3rd and 4th, with Gilles Lalonde, Norm Graff, George Angelidis, Carl Struhl, Jerry Hamilton, Jason White is 10 drivers in the stand. And over in the Hypercars, well, Alec King, it's going to be a bit of a procession if we're being honest. He is 173 points, he has 173 points, with quite a big gap, 58 points to Brian Holden. I don't think that's going to be catchable as it is. Mike Bell 3rd, Franco Alvarez in 4th, Ben Kesley, Adrian Rice and Troy Udan in the top 7, Dan Kirby, Kyle Vaser, John Ulan and Don Hunter, the 11 drivers. In the teams, quite a commanding lead for the Flying Kiwi Racing Hypercar team with Jerry Chen and Alec King. They look almost unstoppable, and I believe they will be. The Hall brothers are in 2nd ahead of Champion Motorsports in the GT3s. Photo Sim Racing in the GT3s are 4th ahead of Barely Functional Motorsport. Red Weasel Racing, Shade Tree Motorsports and CMS GT3. Now, they are all the standings for us, James. Quite a few of them to get through, but we've only got a couple more rounds, and really one more round for us to really be focusing on them before we get to the finale.
Yeah, I think there's going to be the thing. There's a couple that you could probably say are already wrapped up, right? I think Eduardo Beninca is literally just on a cruise around. Alec King is another one as well. Possibly Jerry Chen. He could wrap it up by the time he comes out of Indianapolis. It's going to be, I think, the main battle will be down in the GT3 AMS with Alan Holden and Stephen Miller. I think they're the only two that are really going to be in contention for that one. I think the others probably a little bit further out of reach. I think if Alec King has a good finish, he's going to win it. Jerry Chen and Eduardo Beninca. But the GT3 AMS have still got a lot to play for. Team-wise, well, Flying Kiwi Racing, they've wrapped it up, haven't they, already? Let's be real about it. And they're going to take home the championship on that one. Now, as per normal here, Darryl, we are joined by our confidant, our man with the knowledge, our man in the know, who tells us absolutely not a lot when it comes to next season and the historics. I've tried every single broadcast, but he is here with us, and I will try again. Mr. Ross Smith. Ross, welcome in, bud. How are you?
Good. How's everybody doing?
Well, I'm very well, thank you very much. How are you?
Doing all right. Just getting ready for the race here. We're just lining up and getting everybody set to go. The box check tonight, so I guess we'll see how things go.
Yeah, how's everything with TMS and the old the graphics and the ins and outs of the cars? How's that all going? We're getting quite late on in the season now, so are you doing any more improvements on this season's?
Well, it's going to depend a lot on what all we're able to get implemented. There's a lot going on next year's cars. So right now we actually have all of the mules are done, minus the Valkyrie, which we purposely held off late for because we wanted to make sure we had that wonderful piece of British engineering represented as well as we possibly could. Unfortunately, Aston Martin is not able to come in with we are going to have to get started modeling though, so we can take what we have and our wonderful Happy's mules, go ahead and run at it and see what we can do. And we'll make some updates when they do wind tunnel and actually get the everything car plan for 2025, and everything else is in there. The testers got their hands on it. They're actually going to do a good shakedown. And like Matthew had said in our conversation earlier, all the cars for next year will be Storm Gang exclusive. No more 297 cars. No more of this concern with being able to get all of the cars up to parity by manipulating things through sort of shadowy back-way methods. It'll all be open book, and we'll be doing our damnedest. But of course, with all the graphical updates like you mentioned, I'm able to get some cars to their most stable state, the new ones that is. Then we're swinging back around. We're getting the historic so that way the art team has some templates for them, and then jumping right back into the moderns and doing the same for those. And if we have time left, then I'm going to continue to work on getting the interiors and exteriors and others all updated.
And is it worth me asking about the historics?
You can ask.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean I always care. I feel I might as well talk to a brick wall, Mr. Smith. You never give me anything. So,
well, I can say it's very exciting. The testers are going through. They definitely have a very different approach to how they have to deal with these cars than they've had to deal with pretty much any mod that we've done before. It's very unique, and it's proving to be a challenge, but the progress is very real, and it's very progressive. And we're going to have a really good package come probably the end of the year.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll wait patiently and anxiously for any form of tidbits that I get rewarded with. And if anybody's got any ideas in the YouTube chat, let us know there. Don't forget, if you are here, like, subscribe, turn on the bells. If you're on any of the channels, whether or not you're on JPB or if you're on CMS there as well. Ross, let's get back to your racing this evening. You're out on track, you're in the Acura, you're blaring along. What's your chances? Come on.
Pretty slim right now. I mean, tonight's basically reconnaissance for Saturday. I hate to do that to NARS because, you know, I want to give love to both series, but honestly, it's just been a lot of work. Very focused. Finally got the Peugeot 9X8 Evo all wrapped up to the team, so I haven't had any time to really get on track. This is the first time I've actually been in the NSX at Indianapolis. So, yeah, basically just learning, taking notes, staying out of trouble as much as possible, and if things go our way, yeah, we'll take it.
Do you have the driver's line on, Ross?
The driver's line? No. Fortunately, there's been enough rubber laid down that you don't need any of that. But yeah, it's a good track. I know that you know, as a driver's track, it's not overly interesting, but as a racing track, it does provide a lot of opportunities for some good door-to-door, some good strategies. So keep on a lookout for that. And I wish you all luck up in the booth, and I'm going to be heading to the car right now.
Oh, man. Take care. Have a good one, Ross.
Thanks, you guys, too. And thank you for everything you do, and we'll see you in a bit.
Man. Take care. Right, here you go, Dara. Here is the grid.
I think it sounds like Ross maybe turned off the racing line earlier today. Hopefully that's not the case. Here is the racing grid. As you said, Dan Kirby will lead us to green ahead of Alec King and Ben Kesby, 1, 2, and 3. Jerry Chen is going to line up in the AM pole. From P5, it's Diego Rodriguez ahead of Troy Uyan, Scar Pope, and Gilles Lalonde, the top 8. And there's a couple more hypercars to roll through after we get to the end of our 4th row, and they are Philippe Ducati and Lanny Hall. Only the 10 hypercars today, so they won't have, or there won't be too many of them trying to overtake this GT traffic, which will be led by Eduardo Beninca. Johnny Gutierrez will be starting right behind the pole sitter ahead of Eugene Mazil. Alexander McQuarrie takes the AM pole ahead of Alan Holden, who will round out row number 8. William Schilting, of course, will start from P2 overall in the GT3s. Ryan Reyes will be P17 ahead of Max Sunderlap, JT Tammy and Adrian Rice, the top 20 in this VWSC penultimate round of the season. Eric Jacobs, Matthew Overton, Michael Locke and James Walker, the 11th and the 12th rows, as we make our way on the formation lap, with everybody still lining up. So many cars and more come. John Mayer is in P25 ahead of Ross Smith, who will start from 26th on row 13. Sean Kelly is 27th ahead of Cole McMillan, who will start just behind at the end of the 14th row in P28. Just the 2 more cars to roll through. Steve Miller and Mike Bell. P29 and P30. Mike Bell might try and get through, being a hypercar, but only 30 cars on the grid. We've had many more. James, I cast my mind back to the start of the season when I think we had 50 cars at Daytona. So this is a little bit tame. I think it may be a little bit more calm. But I still think that, you know, the first time we see the hypercars lap the GT3s, we may see a little bit of carnage.
Yeah, I think we always do, don't we? Let's be real. We have this surprise asset of being able to jump on board with the leading hypercar when they start going through the GT3s, and I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how they get on there. Carl's Boys in YouTube chat, I was curious to why the hypercars are over 2 seconds slower than last year and the GT3s are pretty much the same speed. Well, there's lots of things to be taken into considerations with that on the mods and also on track conditions, air temperature, a lot of things could combat that as well. So yeah, unfortunately that's probably a little bit outside of our technical remit, but I'm probably guessing that that's got something to do with it here as well. On the way run now, down through turn 10, down through 11, 12 to go as well. Couple of penalties to touch on. JT Tammy will have a drive through, Norm Graff will have a drive through, Eugene Monsieur will have a drive through, and Mike Bell, well, he unfortunately could not qualify. So they're the penalties that we've got coming up.
Yeah, we'd expect them to take those penalties, you know, relatively soon into the race. So don't be too surprised if they come into pit lane relatively soon, as Dan Kirby will go through the final corner. It's the penultimate round of the season. We're at Indianapolis. Champions can be crowned tonight, but who will come out with still some chances left on the table with 1 round to go next month? Dan Kirby, he has been so good for so long in just a hypercar with the GT3, and he will lead us to green. To the yard of bricks we will go with just over an hour's worth of racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Went to the 90, put his foot down. Now is the time as we get racing here. He will have a very comfortable lead. No side-by-side action down in towards the opening corner as Dan Kirby will lead Alec King into the first chicane, if you can call it that, between 1 and turn 2. Very well mannered at the front. In behind, there's a couple of 2 wide moments at the back end of the hypercars. The GT3 will start their way through as well. It's calm on the start.
Yeah, everybody looks like they've got away cleanly. The same, roughly, can be said with the GT3s. However, Philippe Ducati is there in the hypercar just in front of us currently at this moment in time, as you can see him there, but I do expect him to be whizzing off quite frantically. I'm guessing they didn't leave a massive gap, hence we've got the GT3s tucked quite close to the hypercars early on here, but I think at the end of the day the hypercars will just be too quick. Oh, however, if Philippe Ducati keeps doing that, he will not be quick whatsoever. He is going to join in there, and unfortunately he tucked in right behind Johnny Gutierrez now, and needs to weave his way through 3 of the GT3s, but at the moment it's all very clear. Dan Kirby out in front currently as well.
Yeah, he's been in both cars, hasn't he, Dan Kirby, throughout this season. Just been winning in both, doing whatever he likes, maybe just testing out some of the new machinery for the mods, and there's not really any better driver to do that than Dan Kirby. But he's back in the hypercars tonight and looking to take yet another win, despite the fact that he now can't catch Alec King for a title with only 2 rounds left to go. But very comfortable at the front of the number 90 car as they run their way through on lap 2. We're looking at the pace difference between the GT3s and the hypercars being roughly 8-9 seconds for the mid-packs of both fields, so it's not vast like we see at other racetracks, but it's still going to be interesting through some of the higher speed parts of the lap, just to see how different the pace is between the 2 categories, and how the particular hypercars are able to manage that traffic and get through in the fastest way possible. I think we always say it, but it is such a feature of multi-class racing, isn't it, that getting through the traffic is really the most critical part.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to make sure that they manage it. This is the thing with this. We get some great action on the opening few laps like we've got now, but it really kind of kicks in. Well, for Philippe Ducati, he's getting practice in early as he's having to pass GT3s due to his earlier off the circuit. But I think they've just got to make sure that they can get their head down, not do anything silly, this early on. They want to make sure they can get to the end, right? I'm expecting most of the action to be coming down in the GT3s, and at the moment I'm not disappointed, because as you can see currently on your screen there, and you've got James Walker and Adrian Rice having a nice little ding-dong as well. So a few of the other cars are going to be involved in that one. The Mercedes behind of Eric Jacobs will be there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how these GT3s get on here. Early doors, I think, more, because I think as the race goes on, they will be a little bit more spread out.
And of course, just over an hour's worth of racing to go. I think it was 1 hour 12 and 42, of course, 1 hour 6 minutes. So even though it looked like it's an 80-minute race, I believe it's a 72-minute race. And we're already down below the 1 hour 9 mark to go. So you hit that normal hour mark anyway, but rather than maybe putting in a little bit of caution, a little bit longer, more laps to have to think about, as that is a move being thought about by Max Sunderland as they bounce their way through the chicane. Alan Holden, all out of shape with the number 007, looking to strike his way in front. Down into towards turn number 7 he will go. I think Max will say exactly where he is. No, he won't. Will dive out late, go for the move to the inside. Does he have enough on the brakes? I think he does. Around the outside of the second part of this left, right, left combination. Something like a great move to the inside. I think he put everybody out by surprise.
Yeah, definitely on that one. I think that's not a move where some people expected it, especially as he comes so far back as well. I think for Mac, he's got the bit between his teeth and he's going for it. But Alan Holden, of course, he's just got to stay ahead of Stephen Miller, who unfortunately at this moment in time is all the way down in 28th. So for Alan, keep the car on track, stay ahead of Stephen Miller. Two things you've got to do: nice and straightforward, nice and simple, and he will continue to lead the AMS, GT3 AMS into next week. Eugene Missouri is in the pits, but you know that's because of his drive-through penalty. But at the moment, Matthew Overton pressurising here, poor old Alan Holden, and is just about, I believe, Darragh to go through in turn 1.
Yeah, inside line looks like it's going to be comfortable. Avoid that curve on the inside. It's so high, isn't it, that you can really bounce yourself off wide. But Matthew Overton very fastly avoiding it, getting himself up to P8. A little bit higher in class, I believe. In fact, it's P5 in class, be it Alan Holden in the AM category, Matthew Overton in the Pro. He's going to have to try and catch up Max Sunderland now for a position in terms of his points standing in this race. So a good start for Matthew Overton. The Canadian doing a good job in his red and white livery car.
Yeah, it looks absolutely gorgeous. Let's be real about it on this one as well. It looks very, very nice indeed. It's interesting at this moment in time as well, because all the battles are down in the GT3s. You've got Michael Lott having a nice little ding-dong here, and he's in the BMW. He's got Alan Holden in front of him again. Not a class battle, just an overall battle. Colin McMillan, he's down here as well. He's got Ross Smith sitting in front of him at this moment in time. Gaps of around about 0.6, half a second and above is the norm at this moment in time. In the hypercars, however, Troy Uyan and Mike Bell are having a nice little ding-dong down here for 7th and 8th place. And again, that is a class battle. That's in the Hypercar Pros.
Yeah, only the 5 Hypercar Pros, and these guys battling over what is P4. Overall, of course, in the category. Overall, I should say they are 6th and 7th, but in the category, they're fighting over P4. A few more hands in this race, going down to DeCarthy, so I believe the split is 5 and 6 when it comes to pros and AMs in those hypercars, as you can beautifully see on the left-hand side of your screen. Now, GT3s, there's a few more drivers, 18 overall, and there's more pros than AMs in that regard. So we're kind of seeing a bit of a more meaty blue and green category, if you like, as you can see on the tower, a little bit more skint Hypercar Pro and LMGT3 AM category, but there's still good battles going on, particularly in the championship and the LMGT3 AMs, closest championship that we've got left running, and I'd say it's really the biggest chance we have at still having something running towards the final race.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And that's the thing, as we said, Alec King has got to just basically drive to the end, and Raoul Benika's got to drive to the end, and Jerry Chen has also got to drive to the end, and they will become champions. I think that their gaps are unattainable for anybody else in behind them there as well. But yeah, some interesting fights going on.
Yeah, I'm in that GT3, LMP3 and battle. The gap at the top between Alan Holden and Stephen Miller is only those 7 points.
Oh, sorry, Eric Jacobson is having a big old send there on James Walker, and just managed to make it through. That Mercedes has been a little bit unsteady in practice. I've seen it make a couple of mistakes in practice, but at the moment, in the hands of Eric Jacobs, it seems okay. He's just moved himself up a place.
Yeah, I was looking at the points down. It's not the action going on track, because I didn't think we were going to go side by side. Jacobs, I think, still going to be looking for it through this, or the rest of this lap, maybe a little bit too far back to try into the heavy braking zone at turn number 12. I was just mentioning that that is a 7-point gap at the moment between Alan Holden and Stephen Miller, and at the moment Alan Holden P3 in class, Stephen Miller P5, so neither of them particularly excelling, and as it stands will be going to the final round in the AM category. Meanwhile, it will not be going to the final round in Hypercar Pro, Hypercar AM, and I believe LMGT3 Pro. So I think that's where we're going to be focusing our attention in terms of points battles, is the LMGT3 AMs, and I think we're really, as you mentioned, just going to be almost confirming our winners in the other categories. As I've just noticed, as you've picked it up, James, we're starting to see the lapping unfold.
Yeah, Dan Kirby started making his way through here. We've seen some very interesting overtaking, haven't we, before? I think it's safe to say Laguna was, how can I put it? Interesting, I think, would be the way I could only explain it. But Dan Kirby seems to be a little bit more cautious. Again, with Dan, he's not really got a lot to fight for. There really isn't anything that he's doing. He's been jumping backwards and forwards with cars. He's been jumping backwards and forwards with classes all season, testing them, seeing what he can do. You know, so there hasn't been a whole heap of stuff for Dan Kirby to do with the championship, but he's doing a good job nevertheless.
Yeah, the only issue for Alec King, you could say, is that Dan Kirby's taken away a few points with the lead that Alec King has overall. I don't think he's going to be terribly nervous, albeit Ben Kesby isn't far behind him, but still far enough away. But I don't think he can be too concerned at this point in time. Time left in this race, 1 hour and 2 minutes to go. As we do start to tick down, but this opening stint is going to be interesting. I think definitely interesting to see who's fuel saved as well, because we were talking about it with the strategy. GT3s maybe could push it to 1, but likely to be a 2, and the Hypercars, you'd think they'd be able to try and push it to a 2 stop. But some of them, if they push a little bit too hard in the opening stint, might have to end up going for a 3. So I think these first pit stops are going to be quite important, just to kind of see where we think the race is going to go in terms of that strategy all the way towards the end.
Yeah, I think it's like anything. If you plan something, you have to kind of try and make it happen, or know to a point of where it's not going to happen. You have to know where to go, whether or not. Diego Rodriguez, you are tiptoeing past these guys. Don't get me wrong, I praise you for that. But there's got to be a kind of time when you've got to kind of go for it, dear sir. Because otherwise Scar Pope's in you. Yeah, Scar Pope's in behind you. And he's going to want to meet light work with them as well, Darren. Diego Rodriguez being a little bit... Well, there you go. Now there's Troy Uyan goes straight past us because we're being a little bit too cautious, I feel, for Rodriguez here.
And this is where experience can come in, of course. Diego Rodriguez hasn't been here too often. If memory serves, this may even be his first race, if not only his second or third. So maybe this is where a little bit of experience is coming in for the drivers that have been here all season, that have driven these cars longer. And it's why we keep talking about the traffic. It's so critical to get through the traffic. And you can see there how much time you can lose through the traffic if you're not able to size your way through effectively. I think Diego Rodriguez is going to have a little bit more work to do. Maybe just have a little bit more confidence in getting through these cars, because it's what it can be sometimes, just confidence in making them stick and not wanting to cause anybody any damage, because you know that, if you cause anybody damage, they're going to be on the phone with the stewards, and it may not look too good for you, especially if you're going to get a penalty for the next race.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's the thing. Diego Rodriguez is chasing down Jerry Chen. Jerry is just in front of Troy, which is that shell car in front of us at this moment in time. So these three are overall position battling. Jerry and Diego are battling in class, but it's really weird, I think, with the way that some people manage traffic now. I'm quite cautious. My philosophy is, if I've started in fifth, I want to at least finish in fifth. And if I'm trying to go through on cars in and around silly areas, then if I crash out, I've got no right to complain, right? That's it, because at the end of the day, that was on me. But there has also got to be a moment where you're going to get yourself caught, overtaken, just like Jerry has from Troy, and it's now got Diego coming in as well. So the difference, obviously, at the moment between Pro and Am, confidence in going past back markers, Diego Rodriguez, maybe Jerry Chen got to look a little bit more get your elbow out kind of style, whereas the likes of the guys in front, Dan Kirby, Alec King, Ben Kesby, Mike Bell, they've all been here before. They're all old timers, so they know how people are going to handle it. The young lad at Troy, I'd be interested to see how he gets on, but I think overall they're kind of all just settling in at the moment, getting to their first stops, getting to their fuel limits, seeing what they've planned, seeing how far they think they're going to be able to go. Can they get there? Can they not get there? Are they going to have to abandon it early on? There's a lot involved with it, and I think some of these guys are probably just sitting in there at the moment, making sure they can do what they said they're going to.
And I think generally this track is quite nice for lapping and for overtaking, isn't it? In these multi-class cars, it doesn't really tighten up anywhere. Maybe through in towards the opening corner when the wall on the outside means that you can't really push it any further. But a lot of the places around this circuit, there is lots of grass to run into if something goes slightly awry. I mean, it is very safe in that regard. It's a road course, and it feels like one. Some road courses will feel a little bit tighter. A little bit like when we go to Road Atlanta next week, or next month, with a little bit more caution. I think needs to be taken. Here at Indianapolis, very wide circuit, quite high speed generally, and lots of room to make these moves. So I think the drivers will have that extra little bit of confidence in the back pocket. And once you've done it once, once you've got through all of the GT3s once, I think these drivers are going to feel quite comfortable, particularly if you're the likes of Dan Kirby, Alec King. And I don't think you're going to be too concerned about really carrying any kind of concerns in that regard through towards the end of the race.
No, I think the only problem will be 7, 8, 9, 10. Round the long right-hander of down 11 and 12 into 13. I think that's probably going to be the main jeopardising area, as you can see here, which is where we're roughly at. We're coming from 12 to 13 at the moment. No real place for Rodriguez to go. He can't really go anywhere. He's got the Mercedes in front of him. He's got to just hang on. Now, go. But I would be looking, as they have done, taking the inside line. Too many times we've seen cars on the outside. GT3s wash out. It's obvious they do that. They've done it all the time. There isn't no surprise that they're going to go into a corner and need that exit space. If you do not give it to them because you've decided to bung it around the outside, well, if they put you in the wall on the grass, I'm sorry, but you probably need to look at your racecraft on how to deal with a GT3 washing out. One of the things and the ways that you can do it, Dara, here is getting in the GT3 yourself, doing GT3 action in multi-class, and then seeing from their perspective what it is they're having to deal with. And I think that's one way that you can get experience here. We've got down to, 55 minutes already. There's a yellow there in sector 1. It looks like Gilles Lalonde may have had a little bit of a moment, and I wonder if we can have a look back and see what Gilles has been up to.
To have a look. Let's see. Has he had an off somewhere? Has he gone wide? Was it on his own? That looks like it was contact with somebody else. Going down into turn 1 though, the man in the Alpine through the opening corner. No, he's losing it on his own. Rear end stepping out. It can happen. And I think, nearly getting collected by other cars, managing to be avoided and then spinning himself back around. It's one of those spins where it's a lazy spin, isn't it? Because rear end starts to step around, you can't really do much about it. And I think if you're pleased to got away without damage. But the fact that he's lost all that time.
No, and that's the thing for Shields now. He had to muster the GT3s again and try and make himself, you know, get through all of them as they're battling away, these guys. You know, Hypercars very well spread out at the moment. You see that on the left-hand side there with the splits. That's gaps to the car in front of them. Now, one of obviously the different gaps that we have got is Eduardo Beninca and William Schlickling. And they're fighting away here currently at this moment in time. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to achieve between these two as well. Eduardo, no need to push it down. He's just got to turn up and he's just got to drive for the next 54 minutes. That's it. There isn't anything that Eduardo really needs to do any differently. Get the car to the end, you've wrapped up the championship.
Yeah, I mean, he comes into this race 42 points in front. So, when we're looking at a win being 25 by QBE, 25 points for a win, then you're not going to be losing too much time, or too many points, even if you finish in second. So just a crash, I think, is going to be for him here. In fact, actually, I think we have slightly more points with it being a 1.2. It's 30 if I'm reading this correctly. But that does mean that just getting to the end. I mean, that's all you need to do. It's difficult as a racing driver to have that kind of mentality, though, isn't it? Because for these guys that are out there to win and are regularly winning, you don't really want to send them to second. But sometimes, if the driver behind is pushing for a move really quite hard, it may just be the wiser move to maybe just let him through, sit behind him, and pick up the points and consolidate your position. Because even if you finish behind William Schlickling, if you are a qualifier, you're taking home the title. And I think we should know that. But it's just a case of, as a racing driver, do you want to give up that lead or do you want to go for yet another win?
You show me a racing driver that will give up their position. Never going to happen. I've got more chance of winning the lottery. So Beninca's going to fight this, and he's going to fight this with everything he's got in that car, every little bit of power he has in that Aston Martin. You know, the good thing for him is Williams also in an Aston Martin. So these two have clearly got the same horsepower, the same gruff, the same everything that they need. But it'll be down to the driver, and no offense to William, but you can see there he's really pushing and overdriving the car, where Eduardo's been a little bit more calmer, he's been a little bit more chilled all season. He isn't leading the championship because he's done anything crazy here as well for Eduardo. He's just been sensible, kept it on track, kept out of trouble, done his bit, and I expect him to come out of this with a win, to be blatantly honest. I think he's just too tough of a driver to make silly mistakes.
And I think this could come back. This question about, you know, the pace of what has been in at the moment could come back to the idea of the strategy that we were talking about earlier. One stop is possible for these GT3s if they save a bit. Schlickling looks like he's pushing, right? It looks like he's on the option that it doesn't look as comfortable in that Aston Martin. But Beninca, we know how dominant he can be. We've seen it time and time again this season. Maybe there's an element of just holding back to, you know, make an easy one-stop for himself, while Schlickling wants to go for that win, because Beninca's not going to give it up, and Schlicklin's not going to give up the opportunity, is he? So if he doesn't have that raw pace, he may be pushing a little bit harder to keep up with Beninca, who is saving more. We might see that play out in the strategy battle. That being said, Schlickling might be saving as Beninca has a big old moment coming through turn 12. Lucky not to lose the lead there. Maybe it isn't as comfortable as it seemed for the Brazilian.
Yeah, maybe I've spoken a little bit too soon at that point. Just as I say, he looks like he's been comfortable all season. There he goes in the gravel, and unfortunately causes himself a massive amount of drama. But for Eduardo there, just gather your thoughts, lad. Get back to the, get back to normal. Get yourself back on that racetrack, and get back into the flow again. Because as you say, you've only got to finish. The same with Alec King. The same with Jerry Chen. And at the moment, all three of these leaders are still on the race circuit, and all three are doing a great job. Most of the action is down in the GT3s, of course. This is the battle for the lead in the GT3s with Eduardo Beninca and William Schlickling. And then a little bit further down, you've got Eric Jacobs in the mix as he's chasing down Adrian Rice and Alan Holden. Behind that, we've got Michael Locke coming at it with James Walker in tow as well. So I think the fact that we're very GT3 heavy tonight, we've got nothing short than about 18 GT3s. I expect most of the action to be down in the GT3s.
I think the thing we've seen throughout the season is we've often had more GT3s than hypercars, and we've seen some great action all the way through the year in this class, as we do start to see the opening pit stops happening in the hypercars. That's Diego Rodriguez in the box, the driver who we believe is driving his first race in this series. Having an early pit stop. Yeah, so having an early pit stop, but I think joining so he'll be an early, likely then going for the 3 stop looking at it, because we've had 20 odd, maybe he might be able to keep it at a 2, but I think if you can push it a couple more laps for the hypercars, they're likely to be able to get in at 2, considering we had 1 hour 12 on the start, which means 72 minutes to start with, and if you're going to do it in 3 stints, each stint's going to be 24 minutes, meaning that, you know, the first that you'd expect is going to be about now anyway.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that's the thing. He's now got to just muster, as we've just lost Jerry Chen just as we speak, and all he had to do was keep it on track.
Is that a disconnect?
No.
See a replay. Oh no, going wide off the circuit at turn 12. Just drifting wide. Brake's not seeming to work too well for him. What's happened there? Has he stopped on track and towed it? No. He's going to go around the final or penultimate corner and continue on. It's all okay up to this point. Oh, but he's still in the... Oh no, he's still on the track. I thought for a minute that he crashed out, but no. He is still in the lead, just losing a bit of time and having a GT3 down the inside. That's not going to be comfortable, and especially considering it's going to put him out of line for the chicane. Oh no!
Jerry, you have literally just got to keep it on the race circuit. I do not get this.
Interesting to see. I didn't know if there was any contact with the GT3 there. It was difficult to see from our angle. Of course, watch it again. In towards... I may have got behind there.
Now let's see if we can have a look here. It's going forward. There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
There was.
He's getting hit around. I think he's going to be cautious through that, as the GT3's went too wide in front of him. And nothing he can do to be hit in the rear end. It looks like the car's okay. And he should be alright to continue. Again, he really just needs to finish in this race. A couple of mistakes may cost him a win, but it should be okay for him to still take the championship.
Yeah, he's just got to finish off, hasn't he? Get that car to the end. Any damage, it doesn't look like he's got any. So I think anything from that possibly was just a little slight touch. Now, I'm trying to find the car who that may have been involved with, but the number that they had on the side did not match the number they've got, so I'm interested to see who that was on that one. It wasn't Eugene Azura or Ross Smith, and there we go. JT Tammy was the gentleman that gave Jerry Chen a little bit of a nudge.
I don't think JT Tammy will be on the Christmas card list in 3 months' time.
No, definitely not.
For Jerry Chen, but he's in the pit stop, in the pit lane now for his first stop. Probably, almost certainly one of 2, unless something goes heavily awry for him.
Yeah, I think it's going to be at least 2. GT3s border 1, but I don't know how and if they're going to be able to make it. I think 2 for the GT3s are probably 3 for the hypercars. May seem a little bit more accurate than 1 for the hypercar and 2 for the GT3s.
And it may be where almost quality comes into play with GT3s, if there is any kind of difference. Some drivers who are more experienced, drivers who are able to save a little bit more fuel in the car, are then able to make it on just the one. There's a bit of a late send up the inside, very late. I think there's a little bit of contact on the exit as well. It was quite an aggressive overtake, I think it's fair to say. What's that in there?
It was Eugene and Ross.
Oh, it's Eugene.
Yeah,
was
Eugene
Ross on
was
the outside? Or maybe a report later on what happened
Yeah, I'm sure I'll probably hear about it as well from Ross, but that's now put him under the clutches of JT. JT and Ross running side by side down into the left-hander. I don't think Ross is going to fight that. As he said, he's not really been in the car as much, practicing as much here, and I think for Ross, he's probably just trying to get as much out of it as he can for this weekend. Of course, we've got the VWSC Modern this Saturday, so tune in for that one. And I think right hand, is he going to be able to get through? Yes, he is. And that's Cole McMillan through on Ross Smith. Music Racer, tyres are slower this year, he says. I believe that is Adrian Rice, because he's put, well, that was exciting, and then he's out. So I'm going to go on the hunt and find what happened to Adrian Rice here.
Hopefully nothing too bad for him, but you can never rule it out here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Replay them. Oh, it was. That'll be why, and that'll be why it was fun. Cartwheeling towards the yard of bricks. Final corner then. Going wide, drifting wide. Oh, he's getting stuck in the wall. What was that? Getting absolutely collected. The car landed on top of them. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Wall just grabs him. Is that Eric Jacobs, I think, in there? It was. Let's have a look from Eric's point of view. Just grabs him and stops the car, look.
Oh.
That was
I think
really
yeah,
bizarre.
the technical term for that, I think, if you're Eric Jacobs, is that's a code brown.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think he
Jerry
expected that
Chen.
to happen.
No, it just grabs him. It doesn't even rebound off it. It's just like a sudden stop, like somebody's put a brick there and it's just gone, boom.
Yeah, like, almost like there's a barrier jutting out.
Yeah, either that or that was hit as almost 1,000,000 to 1 chance that he was going to hit that barrier. I can't even express how much of a odd that it was never going to happen at all. For that to happen, you need to hit it at the right angle, at the right point, at the right speed, at the right time, and all that. And there was no way that was going to happen. It looked like literally the barrier has gone and grabbed them. But we've had a couple of tracks this season that have had idiosyncrasies like that as well, though, haven't we? And we've seen cars go flying up in the air. There's been curbs grabbing people. There's been all sorts of wonderful, weird things happening at times. So yeah, I'm going to put it down to just another one of them moments.
Yeah, of course. Factor 2, a couple of quirks. Of course, every sim does have, but I think we found one there. On the outside of the final corner. Little run through of what we're seeing in the race. Overall, Dan Kirby is our Hypercar Pro leader, Scar Pope leading the AMS. We've got Eduardo Beninca and Alexander McQuarrie leading the GT3 Pro and AM respectively. We're looking again, I mentioned it before, but it's worth hammering home. Dan Kirby heading for the title. Jerry Chen looking like he's heading for the title. Beninca heading for the title, but we're not going to have it done in the GT3 AMS just yet. So stick around because we've got a lot of racing left to run. 40 minutes, just over that, left to go in this race. As we are now seeing Dan Kirby in that all rail. I think a little bit more red has been added to that car over the course of the season. He's now running through this tricky 7, 8, 9, 10 section of the racetrack, and he cleared some traffic very nicely there.
Yeah, he did. I am going to correct you. Darryl on that one. What have you said? Dan, the championship is wrapped up here with Dan Kirby at the front of the hypercars.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Sorry.
I was there thinking Dan Kirby wishes he was at the front of the hypercars. Try again, Darren. No one noticed.
Alec King, even though he's in second, is heading for the hypercar. I think we're so used to Dan Kirby winning. And Kirby and King, hey. It sounds like a double act, isn't it, Kirby and King? You would not be surprised to see them doing some small town shows across the Midwest, would you? But it is Alec King, you're right, who is leading the championship, and if he can finish even behind Dan Kirby, we'll be taking that title.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been an interesting thing this season with Alec. This is the first time I've really watched Alec go and race. Last season he spent a bit of time in the booth with us up here as well, and you know, this is the first time I've actually seen him go for it, and I've got to say, I'm trying to pick a word. Do you know the meaning of the word maverick?
Yeah.
That's what he kind of reminds me of. You know, you're never quite sure what you're going to get with him. He gets himself sometimes making silly mistakes, and then sometimes he's as clean as a whistle, and then he's sticking his nose in the wrong moments and having action with GT3s, because even from Alec King's point of view this season, he's had what could only be described in some races as a roller coaster races. You know, just look at Laguna. If you have not seen Laguna Seca, go back and look at Laguna Seca of what this was. And for Alec King and that managing that traffic and making mistakes and stuff like that. And I think that's what kind of he reminds me of. He's a maverick. He's an enigma. You never know what you're going to get out of him. But you somehow admire and impressed by what he's managed to do in that car on these racetracks this season.
Yeah, I think really both Dan Kirby and Alec King, they have both been, you know, exceptional. But Alec King performing week in, week out. Well, I say week in, week out because this season's been spread over the last 6 months or so. So it hasn't quite been a weekly thing, but over the course of the season, he's picked up, if I'm counting correctly, 6 wins out of 9 up to this point. I mean, just incredible consistency. Kyle Vaser took one earlier on in the season, Franco Alvarez had one at Motorsport, and Dan Kirby took the other one. I believe he was DQ'd in some other race, and I think he actually may have won a couple of those races, but was since DQ'd. But Alec King has just been picking up so many points every single race. It's just not really giving anybody else a chance or a sniff at the title. And at this point, as we said so far in the broadcast, it's just really a procession to get there. But to win it at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well, what a place to win.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a shame you can't do a whole, procession and get him on the bricks and stand on his car and wave aloft the title championship. Unfortunately, we can't do any of that. That's well above our AI-generated programming language of R Factor. So unfortunately, we can't. But you do have to kind of sit back and think, well done, young man. Because, you know, some of the things that we watched this season, could have said, well, how is he leading the championship? But he is, and he's done it, and he's getting through, and he's doing what he's got to do here, which is primarily bringing the car home to finish.
It'd be great to get a webcam on a couple of these guys, because sometimes you feel like, you know, they're winning week in, week out. You know, all brilliant series that they're doing. And yet it doesn't really feel like almost that they expect it at the level that they drive at, and that they don't necessarily celebrate too much. We've seen in top-level sim racing that a lot of drivers will have a good race or two, and you know, they might come for an interview, where you can see it on their faces when they cross the line. There's not really much of a reaction. I think it'd be interesting just to see the array of reactions that we get here. I suspect that Dan Kirby and Alec King are probably quite calm and collected when they're crossing the line, but a couple of the other drivers, I'm sure, would be a little bit more excited when they cross the line. I'm thinking more of the Hypercar and category, where there's been a little bit more toing and froing across the season, and drivers would celebrate the win a little bit more, and in the region. It'd be interesting to see how they react, because everybody reacts differently, but you just get the sense, don't you, that when we speak to them in interviews, that Dan Kirby and Alec King likely both, yeah, very calm, very collected, and when they cross the line, they're like, yeah, good, nice to have points in the bag without any kind of real celebration.
Yeah, Dan Kirby is always the same. He's calm, he's cool, he's collected. If you're looking for a full-blown sentence and an essay coming out of Dan Kirby, you're not going to get one. He reminds me of a very Kimi Räikkönen-esque interview when you're trying to speak to him. And you know, he's just that natured kind of man. He's not out there, he's not arrogant with the fact that he's good. He's just cool, calm, collected, says what he needs to, Like the question, how was that? I love you. Yeah, it was all right. You can't say anything else about Dan Kirby when you get answers like that, you know. And I think Alec King, although he is that way, but he's just he is a little bit more vocal, you know, will tell us more and stuff like that. But it's just the nature of the drivers, isn't it? You know, if I'm interviewed, I don't know how I would be. I never win races, Darryl, to get an interview, so I'm not really that. I don't know how you would be with it. Are you an interviewer? Do you interview well?
No, I think I'd probably speak to you.
Alec!
Yeah, that's not comfortable if you're Alec King. Inside line now at turn 10. We'll finally get the move done, but it's a little bit more laborious than I think he wanted it to be. Finally from the VTs. One of the moments where he'll have a sharp intake of breath and then let out a sigh as he looks at the track in front of him. Nobody there. Just relax for the next minute or two because that was close. Can't really afford that kind of mistake. Ben Kesby is another driver who we've not really talked about much, but he is right there, a second and a half behind Alec King. And any kind of mistake here from Alec is almost certainly going to be punished. Very high though from Ben Kesby. Manages to keep it out of the wall.
Yeah, he's another one that's quietly gone about his business this season, Ben is. We haven't really touched and spoken to him. He's fifth in the championship at the moment. He's had some up and down rounds, a couple of DNFs, a couple of DQs in there and stuff like that. So he might reflect on this season and think, that's probably not the best thing or season to be doing. Just like this young man is not doing himself any favours whatsoever here. That's where he was, I believe that's where he was here. He was off after that as well. Where have you gone, Jerry? Where have you gone and what did you do?
It's a good job that his car doesn't act like a shell because I think he might need a couple of trips to the pit lane, but thankfully it's holding up relatively well. Got out of that at 5 and 6 with relative ease. In the grand scheme of things, we'll try and find out what else has happened to Jerry Chen, if anything. But he's still running in P3. It's not looking too bad for him at the moment. And in fact, Scar Pope, I believe, is in the I believe he's in the pit lane. So time may be able to be gained
on track
by Jerry Chen there. Oh yeah, maybe that's just a bit of a timing thing. But he's out on track then, so don't worry about Scar Pope. But I think at this point in the race, the maximum amount of stops anybody's going to be able to have is 1. But I think most of the GT3s will be going to the end from here. The Hypercars may need an extra stop, but again, some of them may be able to go to the end from here.
Yeah, you see on the left there who stopped and who hasn't, I think, at this moment in time. I think sometimes, though, that little timing graphic does get a little bit confused, and it does register people as they haven't stopped when they have. But I think everybody's going to need to make 1. I think the 1-2 for GT3s is possibly realistic on that one, but the Hypercars are definitely going to have to make 2. There's no way they can get through this time length of circuit race to the end on 1 stop, but they will possibly need to make it. I've only ever seen a Hypercar go maximum 25 minutes, so I think maybe that might be the given case for them as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these pit strategies take place at the moment. Alexander McQuarrie leading the GT3 AMS. He's got Ryan Paulbert Reyes behind him, and you can see at the moment for Alexander McQuarrie there, he seems to be leading quite comfortably in that class. So yeah, great job from Alexander on that one.
Yeah, McQuarrie doing a good job. I think he was the early season leader in the championship in the GT3 AMS, falling away a little bit as the season has progressed. No, I'm sorry, that's Joshua Dinson, I think. Although he may have been right up there in the championship. Has been there or thereabouts all the way through the season. Picked up a win at VIR, a 2nd place at Sebring, a 3rd place as well. So he has been doing a pretty consistent job in the whole racing car. But I think would have wanted a little bit more. At the moment, would be moving up to P3 in the championship, so still some positives. But yeah, maybe a question of what could have been. albeit coming good towards the end of the season. This could be a second win in a row.
Yeah, it could well be. Let's flip the Ducati on the screen and Lanny Horn. Lanny's been very, 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 very cautious with the GT3s. Philip looks like he's more chomping at the bit to say, let me go, I can get these, but he's got to clear another hypercar. Didn't even get the GT3. Is he going to get the inside? No, he's not. Why are we not? Say it's a wide circuit, Darryl. You say it should be easy for them to overtake, but they're not really achieving that at this moment in time.
Looking a little bit tricky, which is surprising considering that we've been going for nearly 3/4 of an hour. Some drivers still having a couple of difficulties, but we are seeing a few bunches on the racing track. If I'm looking at my driver track at the moment, there's really barely anybody in the opening sector of the grand scheme of things. A lot of clumping towards the second half of the lap. So there are some empty parts of the track, but there are some busier areas, and that's what you get with a multi-class race. Those clumps ebb and they flow as the different classes roll their way through. At the moment, it does seem like there's a lot of action concentrated in certain areas of the racetrack. Some drivers not really dealing with it terribly well. Ducati is still going to be ahead of Lanny Hall over turn 1 and turn 2, and he will gain some time because Lanny Hall had to overtake a GT3 going into the opening. You can see it there in the time. He's getting about 3/4 tenths in that opening sector.
Yeah, I think for Philip now, he's just got to be able to try and break away and keep that momentum up. He's got 1.8 at the moment to Lanny Hall, so try and keep it up there and see if they can extend that gap. It's going to be really interesting to see if he can, but I'll be interested to see how quick Philip Ducati is, right? Ducati was the man who obviously went off the track, got caught up in between the traffic, and unfortunately ended up mixing it up. Gilles Lalonde is another one that's having a bit of a rough time here this evening, about 30 seconds currently behind Lanny Hall, so it'll be interesting to see what Gilles Lalonde can do from there. But Alan King is closing up on Dan Kirby, 1.3 seconds at the moment, but I do wonder if that's Kirby being extra cautious through traffic.
Yeah, and again, Dan Kirby's not really fighting for much, is he? Apart from the pride of winning this race, I don't think he's going to be pushing too hard there, and it might give Alec King the opportunity that he wants to try and take this race win and just to consolidate even more points. We're going to have to go on the outside here of a GT3 and just about managing it nicely. Yeah,
you've got to get that job done in that last corner like that. I know it's easier said than done, but you either wait for them to wash out and you go underneath them through turn 14, or you chance going on the outside, but you need to get it done before the main exit of the corner, because otherwise they will wash out and you'll find yourself probably squeezed like an orange in a juicer against the wall from a GT3 on the inside of you. So Alec got the job done where he needed to, and got through, and now can get on his merry way.
Yeah, we'll see where he can get to. Ooh, is that a shaping move? It is a move to the inside by Alec King. I don't think it's too hard. I think he's now a car who is a lap down. In fact, let's see, I think it might have been Scar Pope, indeed it was. So Scar Pope, the leader in the AM category, not going to fight deep leaders in the Pro terribly hard, as Ben Kesby also found his way through. So top 3 in the Hypercar Pros, they're really split by about 4 seconds. It's quite nice and tight, something that I think it's fair to say we've not been too used to this season, as we've often had the likes of Alec King, Dan Kirby pull away at the front and not look back after the first couple of laps.
Yeah, that's it. They're generally off, aren't they, on their bike, and we've never seen them again, to be blatantly honest. They've done until they go through on traffic where it all gets a little bit harriated, and that's the only time that we've ever seen them really in the mix. And I think it is nice to have them where they are, but is that purely due to the fact that we haven't got many of them? Darren, we've got 5 Hypercar Pros, we haven't got many Hypercar AMs, we've got 5 of them as well. Is it because there ain't many of them?
I think probably likely, it's fair to say, especially when it comes to championships, when there's not many cars. If you can get a couple of results from people, yeah, the championship could stay close because the drivers who aren't winning are still picking up points. But it's just because the drivers who keep winning are just going to keep building up that advantage. race after race, and they don't have too much competition. So there's not too much variation in drivers that can win. I think that's why we have seen a little bit more fighting, particularly in the midfield in the Championship in the GT3 Pro, and definitely at the front of the field in the GT3 and the Hypercars. They've always been a little bit lighter in terms of drivers, as top classes often are in sim racing and in real life racing generally. But it does mean that you do start to see those championships eke out a little bit more towards the end of the season, and it gets to the point where we are now, where drivers are just trying to consolidate championships. But you also have to consider that those drivers have built up those gaps all throughout the season, and you know, as they would absolutely argue, they absolutely deserve to be in a position to win the title with a round to spare.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think anybody who turns around and says otherwise doesn't quite understand what they've kind of gone through this season. King, settle pedal on that one. It's always a challenge when you get a full season's racing and you're coming down to the nitty-gritty, because if we're honest with ourselves here, Indianapolis hasn't been a showstopper. It's not been a momentous occasion with all the cars having a go at each other and there's people close to each other and everything. This hasn't been that, and a lot of these guys are just kind of driving around to try and wrap up their championships. As we say, Alec King being one of them, Jerry Chen being another one, Eduardo Benica being another one. The main battle is Alan Holden, and as long as he stays ahead of Stephen Miller, he'll lead going into the final round. So although some of these guys, are out on track, are they out there consolidating like we're looking at Holding is doing? Because there isn't many battles out on the circuit at the moment.
Yeah, it's skint in terms of the action at the moment. But that's what we get when we have slightly less drivers on the racetrack. There's more drivers that are able to get themselves home and to the end of the race. Time is really ticking away now as well. I mean, not too much longer in this race. Around 20 minutes for the drivers to get these moves done and to get themselves into any kind of position they feel like they need to be in, either for the championship or just to pick up some points in the race, and for a little bit of pride on the back of that as well. But yeah, I think generally the story in the last 20 minutes of this race is going to be, can the title protagonists get themselves across the line? It's looking like it's going to happen, but are we going to be speaking to happy people feeling like they can relax with the next race, or are they going to have increased pressure? Because I also think that's something that goes under the radar sometimes. If a driver goes into a race like this, for example, to Alec King or Eduardo Benica with big leads in the championship and fully expected to come out of that race with the championship under their belt already, if that isn't then delivered, confidence isn't necessarily fully there for the final round, and you start driving defensively and just mistakes can then be made, as I think maybe that was happening with Scarpo, who knew he actually had to get to the end, so was just staying where he needed to be, being a little bit careful into that chicane and getting the hit from behind. Totally not his fault, but driving defensively can lead to that. And I think sometimes if the drivers are, if that's playing on their mind that I couldn't get it done last time, got to make sure I get it done this time, it might play on their mind a little bit more, and we might see more chance for them, or the title slipping away. So I think we've got to watch to see if they can get it to the end, but at the moment it does look relatively safe.
Yeah, it definitely does. You see what it should be going through on traffic there in that Mustang behind him. Has now gone. He can go and set after his way in Sport Benica. 0.7 seconds is the gap. There is Benica. There is Schilling. Again, no, they're in exactly the same team. Not exactly the same team, sorry, exactly the same car. And how big a difference it will make, I'm not really sure. I think a lot of it is going to be the skill of the drivers. But yeah, for the likes of the people that need to be finished, like Ben Kesby's in the pit lane now as well. Alec King's in the pit lane. Bell, Uyan, not quite yet on that one. So these guys are going to be coming in together. But it'll be down here in the GT3 Pros that will provide the action for a little bit.
Yeah, it's good to see the GT3 Pros are still going at it. I mean, we've seen them all the way through the season. I think back to Laguna Seca. I always think back to Laguna Seca. It's better than my nightmares. Frankly, there was so much going on in that.
Yeah, it was a classic
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was very glad to be watching and not taking part because it was not comfortable viewing. As the drivers just, I mean, the Hypercars picking their way through the GT3s, and the GT3s in a way playing their part, sometimes being caught out by the Hypercars. You know, it was a lot. Here it's been a little bit more. They've been a little bit more able to just chill a bit and have a bit of a rest. But it's still not been the greatest for the GT3s. We've seen a couple of moments between quite a few of them. We've seen like that moment with Jerry Chen getting hit from behind, and I'm sure that wasn't the best of moments. You know, from the GT3s. You know, there are always lots of events that happen in a race that can play on drivers' minds. They may not feel like a big event, particularly in terms of a broadcast, but it can play on the mind and it can linger on in a championship. But good to see that we're getting some nice fighting. This is great side by side this evening.
Yeah, and we've got Ben Kesby here with Alec King. Now they're chasing down Dan Kirby. Kirby is stationary and waiting for Kesby to come into view at the top part of your screen. And he's not come in yet. Where are you, Dan Kirby? He is out already. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Still not exited. Still not exited. That should allow Kirby to come back out in his lead, which is it will actually do there, as Ben Kesby has cleared Eric Jacobs and is now behind Ross Smith. So as it was, same as it was. Dan Kirby, Ben Kesby, Alec King. I think the only change is the fact that Alex back is in the pit lane, and I believe he has just gone into the pit lane now. So is this his third? I think this might be King's second or third stop here.
I feel like it's his second, but equally it could be his third. Well, I don't remember
just went in with Kesby
very early at all.
I'm sure he just went in with Ben Kesby.
Yeah. Well, we'll likely ask him again.
No, he has been in already.
Yeah.
Alec King went in there. He came out and then went in a minute and a half later. So he got jumped there and then went in again a minute and a half later.
Did he underfuel the car, maybe?
There weren't any fuel that didn't go in. I can't
That wouldn't explain why he got jumped, though, would it?
Yeah, it would explain why he's now down in fourth, because he's obviously had to make extra stops compared to everybody else. But yes, by Mike Bell and Ben Kesby, that can explain why Alec King is in on that one. Now again, we would normally make a drama and tell a story and things like this with that scenario, Dara, but still not going to make a difference. He still can walk away with the championship out here tonight.
It will, or it won't make a difference, I should say. And I think I've also realised, looking at the standings coming into this, of course, drivers can drop 2 rounds in this championship. And I've double checked that has happened in the standings, and it has, just to make sure that what I'm about to say makes sense. The 2 dropped rounds at the moment for Alec King would be a DNF and 18 points for, I believe, a P2. So even if he finishes in third, he will get, you know, the amount of points for a P2. Because up to this point, he just hasn't picked those up yet because they're dropped at this point in time. So realistically, I think Alec King has P2 wrapped up with low on top. I don't then know if anybody can catch him anyway. Not least, of course, because Ryan Hall, who I don't believe is here, or no, is in the AM category, won't be gaining too many points at all, and Mike Bell is down in P3. So Alec King looks very comfortable, and he may end up coming out of this race with more points than he deserves from his finishing position if he finishes third, because he'll get the same amount of points for a P2.
Yeah, well, it really does depend on whether or not Bell or Kesby have got to pit again, because, you know, at the moment, obviously, King sitting in 4th place. To be able to get that second, he's got to rely on them 2 pitting, right? And it'll be interesting to see within the next 15 minutes or not whether or not Kesby or Bell come in again, but it's how close can King get to them to make sure that he's in and around where he needs to be. Or is this it? Is 4th place all that Alec King's going to get from that?
Really interesting. See if Alec King can work his way through the order at all, or whether he will be stuck in P4 come the end of the race. Mike Bell isn't far away, and it's fair to say that the top 3 have had a little bit more pace than Mike Bell throughout this race. So you wouldn't put it past him to try and catch and overtake. 7 seconds, 40 minutes, it will be tricky, there is no doubt about that. Battle in the GT3s, Michael Ott, James Walker going at it in the GT3 Pros as they make their way through the final couple of corners. Another thing I've noticed very quickly in the Hypercar AM standings is that Scar Pope being in second, and the only driver I do believe who can catch Jerry Chen has not attended 2 races, and they are the drop rounds. So whatever Scar Pope gets here will be the points added to his tally. Jerry Chen is currently dropping a P5 and a P4, worth 10 and 12 points respectively. So if everything goes awry from here for Jerry Chen, he will still pick up some points which may be enough to get him the title. But I think he'll still be hoping to get himself that win. But I think it's still a little ways off that for the time being.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's where Pope is on the pit stop scenario. To be honest with you, Dara, it's whether or not Pope's even got one more to go. If he hasn't got one more to go, then Jerry's staying in second. And is it going to be enough to wrap up the points? I probably would have thought so. So, yeah, I think at the moment, as Walker is just about trying to put it around the inside and now around the outside of Scar Pope, and he should look for coming back underneath him again through the right-hander. He is not, and at the moment he's tucked in right behind Michael Ott. So it depends on how much frustration there is on James Walker's car. Well, there's that much, shall we say. He does go through on Michael Ott on that one going into turn 12.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting wide, very wide for Michael Ott through the final corner and nearly getting into the barrier, which we've already seen tonight. It could be the first time that the driver may fall a victim to that wall, possibly jutting out invisibly onto the circuit. Michael Ott holding onto it and sticking behind James Walker for the time being, but Walker goes deep at turn 1. Will hold on to the position, all out of shape through turn 2. This will open the door for Michael Ott, no doubt, as they run their way through turn 3. This doesn't look as comfortable in the McLaren as it maybe did half a minute ago.
No, definitely not. I think it's got to be a bit careful not to heat up everything within the car, tyres and all that, and make them slippery, because it's going to want to get away from Michael Ott as much as it can. Probably, if he can get to another pit stop, might want to do that. But again, we've only got 11 minutes on the clock. If anything magical is going to happen, it needs to sort of start happening now with pit stop strategies and any dramas we're going to get. Because currently at the moment we just haven't quite got them dramas, and that's a back marker about Jacobs, so that should be a straight swap underneath in that McLaren for James Walker, and it is a job done for him. But yeah, a lot of people spread out here. DNF for Philip Ducati.
What's happened there then? For the Hypercar and driver, another driver who hasn't done too many races so far this season, but joining us, frankly, in this race. We've passed the hour mark of the amount of time we've been racing here at Indianapolis. We'll try and see if we can find out what happened to Philippe Ducati. I believe here it is then, through the chicane onto the back straight, going past the GT3.
Disconnected.
Yeah,
disconnected.
It's a pretty open and shut case, and that shields along. Second latest spin we've seen from him at the same corner.
Yeah, now we've got Ross Smith. I think it's going to make the same mistake. Just goes off the side of the circuit there and manages to hold it. But yeah, no real dramas here to speak of tonight either, which is good to see. I'm sure drivers will probably tell me otherwise, but at the moment, I haven't seen any major dramas that these guys have had to do.
So it's good to see that, really. Meaning that we've got some good fighting on track. and we've seen some nice clean racing as well. One thing I'm going to have to check with Ross Smith at the end of this race is points for the final 2 races, because I've noticed that in the first couple of races and at Road America, the winner got 30 points, but everywhere else the winner has had 25 points. I have to try and work out what the point is.
The length of the race, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. So if that's right, we'll be getting 30 points for the winner here because it's the 1.2, and then also in the final race, which could change if drivers are champions. And I think particularly in that regard, in the Hypercar Rams with Jerry Chen, because I think with the extra points, he may just be a couple of points short of winning the title if it stays as it is.
Yeah, I think they need to do a thing here as well, that if the driver wraps the championship up tonight, next week he can't qualify and he's got to start from the back of the grid.
I love that, and I've done it. I remember doing an F1 league many moons ago on the F1 league, and I was the champion. And I think it was a 24-round season. I wanted like 2 or 3 rounds to go, and I wasn't allowed to qualify. And I had to start at the back. And the other rule was I couldn't overtake anybody until the end of lap 1. But I think maybe a little bit extreme for this.
Yeah, that's a little bit harsh. I can't ask them to do that, but we can ask them for the other thing, because that would be quite interesting to see if they can make that work at all. But yeah, I think we will come away from this evening and kind of decipher it in a way and say, right, okay, well, it wasn't a classic by any shape of the imagination, but we did wrap up and clean up and name 3 champions here.
Yeah, and I think 2 are, if they're not already, but they are pretty much set in stone, and that is Alec King and, of course, Eduardo Beninca. They are going to have monstrous leads going into the final round. I don't think anybody's going to be anywhere near to them. I mean, Eduardo Beninca didn't compete in the opening 2 rounds of the season. Since then, he's got a win, and then a win, and then a win, and a win. And he's currently on for a win in this race. So I don't really think there's been, since the run started, I don't think there's been anybody who's really been able to stop him. And JT Tammy, who did hold the advantage after the first few rounds, has just not been able to match the pace. He has got 6 second places this season, but it's just not been enough to combat the quite frankly extraordinary run that we've seen from Eduardo Beninca over the last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I think you are right. He's done an absolutely amazing job, and I think for Eduardo, he can come back and look out at this season quite happily and proud of what he's done and how he's gone about his business, and I think he's done a great job, to be blatantly honest with you, and there's no faulting the young man for what he's done, right? He has been exceptional, and I think at the end of the day, any praise that we put on him here, Darryl, will be well deserved on that one.
Absolutely. It's been incredible to watch all the way through the season. Some comments from some drivers, but Beninca particularly doing absolutely everything he can to win this title. Not long left to go now in this race. Not long left for some of these drivers to survive. But, there's still room for things to go wrong. There's still room for moves to happen. As we've seen it in the opening 20 minutes, it can happen in the final 20 minutes. And with such high stakes for some of these drivers, you wouldn't put it past maybe a mistake.
Yeah, and we wouldn't put it past the fact that somebody's had to go into the pits and lost the lead at the GT3 AMS. Alexander McQuarrie was short. He was short on fuel when he had to go into the pits, and has lost that lead to Ryan Reyes, who is out in front now of the GT3 AM. So Alexander McQuarrie might be kicking himself a little bit on that one, as he looks like he's just run out of fuel.
Yeah, not looking good then for McQuarrie, but good for Reyes as well, in a championship that kind of been in off and on throughout the season, but pulling his way back. A win a couple of rounds ago, a second place last year at Virginia. So on a good run of form, just maybe a little bit late for a championship run. That being said, with him only coming into this race only 38 points behind And with a win looking like it's coming in now, there is definitely a chance that Ryan Corbett Reyes is going to be in the conversation in the final round. We might have a three-way battle for the title when we come to the final round in, I believe, 4 weeks' time. So still conversations to be had, and even if all the other championships are wrapped up, it'll be great to have a three-way fight in the GT3 out.
Yeah, it would be, and I think we're going to find out how these guys get on and whether or not we're going to be in that situation. And I think at the end of the day, for the GT3 AMs, you know, it'd be interesting to see which way this goes. And I'd be interested to see the points after this, because if we do get a three-way fight, I'll be very, very impressed. Will I be upset for Alan Holden if that does happen? Absolutely, because I think that guy's driven out of his socks this season. And, you know, some may say he deserves the championship, but hey, I'm not going to stop a three-way fight if it comes to it.
Yeah, I think it would be tough for Reyes to get involved. But if we've got three names to talk about, it creates a little bit of a drama and maybe a little bit of jeopardy for the top two. They've got someone else to worry about. They can't just worry about each other. So, and with Ryan Reyes in a good run of form, put him out of the question for winning that race and putting the other two under pressure. But that's a few weeks away. We'll have to wait and see. 3.5 minutes on the timer left. Dan Kirby is coming through the turn 7 to 10 part of the circuit. Now, his last couple of laps have been 1 minute 16s. His last couple of laps have been 1 minute 18s. And we'll see when he crosses the line, but I think almost certainly at the end of this one, we're going to have 3 more to go in this race. And we're looking at about 4 minutes worth of racing.
Yeah, it's going to be give or take about 3 minutes. It'll be close to that 3-minute mark when it crosses the line. So there's going to be 3 laps here for Dan Kirby, and that's all he's got left before he wraps up another well-deserved win. Would I have liked him to stay within his class and battle away and be here? Absolutely, but man, this guy can put on a show no matter where he is or what car he's in.
Yeah, and I think we've described him this season as an alien, haven't we? I mean, he's just good in anything. You know, you throw him a new challenge, don't give him any practice, and you'd still probably expect him to do quite well, and you'd probably expect that of himself to boot. So, you know, Dan Kirby, what a driver, exceptional. He never looks under pressure, does he? I mean,
no.
Even with the the challenges and with the different drivers on good runs of form and the fact that they may have been more practiced in this machinery, he just doesn't look under pressure. We don't even know if this is his true pace or, you know, in the likely event that he might be cruising home.
Yeah, exactly, and I think one of the interesting things to note as well, that although for Dan Kirby there was nothing to fight for, he's still gone out and laid a marker, right? He's still gone out and said, you know, I might not be in the championship, boys, but I can still whoop your butts almost. Do you know what I mean? And that's what he's gone out and done, and he's done it with such dominance as well. One of the other things that hasn't arrived that was on the cards and projected was rain. That's not turned up either, but it was a 40% chance of rain. But anybody that knows the weather man tells you that there's 40% chance that you think it's 40% chance in your area. It's not. It's 40% chance nationwide. That there might be some rain depending on where you are. So, you know, for Dan Kirby, no rain, gone out and dominated, taking kids to school. He's done a great job.
Yeah, I think the rain's happened in the UK rather than over in Indiana. I know you'll know what I'm talking about. James, been pretty damp here recently, but it is very high and dry in the plains of Indiana. Of course, the kind of worries of winter that you do get with the Great Lakes nearby. You often see photos of the dunes, the Indiana dunes, on the shores of the lakes, looking pretty cold, lots of snow, lots of ice. Nothing to worry about here today at IMS. Lovely and mild. We may even have some people out on the golf course that is both outside the track. Well, I think they'll probably be outside the track. They wouldn't be on the infield, that's for sure. But it's been a lovely day, great day to go racing. And if you're Dan Kirby, you're just overtaking your final GT3s into turn 1 as he found the white flag when he crossed the line. We've only got the 1 more lap to go. and he really is just going to cruise home.
Yeah, he absolutely is as well. I think it's important to realise that although he's got a lead, which he has done brilliantly, he's led from start to finish and will probably win this race. I do want to pick up on the fact that Jerry and Alec is going to win the team championships. That's already done and dusted. Brian Hall, Lanny Hall. Well, Lanny's here. There's no Brian, but then again, Anderson isn't here, and there's Holden for the Champion Motorsports GT3. So it's possible that Lanny Hall and the Hall brothers can wrap up second place here this evening in the team championship. But Kirby coming over the line soon.
Yeah, we'll work out all the points. I've got my maths at the ready to, when we see the final results, just to see who is where and who's won the title. But with title questions out of the picture for Dan Kirby, he just had to win the race, and he has dominated here at IMS tonight. He took the lead, he's never looked back, he's going to win it comfortably and win it in style. It is Dan Kirby winning again here in the VWSC NRAS Series. He will take it in his Porsche, and it will be Ben Kesby who will be in P2, gaining some points on Alec King, albeit I think it's all going to be wrapped up by the time we read the standings. Mike Bell will be third, ahead of Alec King as they run through the final couple of corners in the Hypercar Pros. We'll have a look back at the Hypercar AMS. It is Scar Pope who was looking like he's going to win this race, and just about, I believe, keep the championship alive going into the final round. He's going to need an absolute miracle. Actually, no, I'm thinking, I'll come back to this in a minute. He might think he can keep it alive, but we'll have to wait and see. Jerry Chen will finish in P2 as they make their way on towards the banking. But what a performance from both of them. It will be Scar Pope who crosses the line, weaving as he does it in a very happy mood, clearly in his Lamborghini. But it will be Jerry Chen, the championship leader, finishing in P2. Big gaps between some of the leaders in the class. Sometimes they come off the line 1, 2, 3, 4, but Shilting taking his time as you would expect. Winning in the GT3, very good performance. And it stops the run of Eduardo Beninca, who will finish just in behind unless he lets him through. I don't know what's going on here. It feels a bit like Schumacher and Barrichello, doesn't it, up towards the line? I think they both want to give it to each other at the moment. Beninca wants to give it to Shilting, and Shilting will take it, I think. And he has, as they cross the yard of bricks.
Yeah, I think William tried to give it to, as I say, to Beninca. Beninca said, nope, you take it. And, well, then Beninca just followed him and almost kind of pushed him along on that one. We're just waiting. I believe John Mayer, has he finished? He has finished for this one, so we should be able to bring you up the results very, very shortly. And if I'm not mistaken, they should appear now. There you go.
Here we go then. These are the results from the race. Lists the carp. I'll run you through the drivers. It was winning the race Dan Kirby, Ben Kesby and Mike Bell, second and third. Alec King and Troy Uyan were fourth and fifth, and that was the Hypercar Pro category all in a row. Scar Pope won in the AMS ahead of Jerry Chen, Diego Rodriguez, Gilles Lalonde and Lanny Hall. They were the 10 hypercars that finished near the front. Then we had William Shilton winning in the GT3 Pro category ahead of Eduardo Beninca, the champion who has definitely now been crowned. Johnny Gutierrez, third in class. Ryan Paulbert Reyes, fourth overall in the GT3s and winning the AM category in some style. And between himself and P2 in the GT3 AMs was Matt Overton, who finished fourth in the Pro category. Michael Locke, JT Tammy, Max Sunderlap, James Walker and Eugene Mazur, the top 20, before we get to Alexander McQuarrie, who finished 21st but second in the LM GT3 AMs. Alan Holden was third in class, ahead of Ross Smith and Eric Jacobs, who were in the Pro category but not having the best of nights. Before we come to the drivers who had some difficulties, Cole McMillan, John Mayer, Stephen Miller, Sean Kelly, Philippe Ducati and Adrian Rice rounding out the drivers that took part in this race. Now, I have done a little bit of maths here, James, and I've realised, and I can't believe I didn't realise this before, but the fact that Jerry Chen has dropped a P5 in this season means that no matter what happens in the next race, he will pick up at least 10 points, which would be enough to see him take the title, meaning that even though he hasn't got a full race win point ahead of his next rival, Jerry Chen will be the title winner, along with Alec King in the Hypercar Pros and Eduardo Paninka in the GT3 Pros, meaning we've crowned 3 of our champions tonight.
Yeah, which is what we said would roughly happen, right? And we're just going to wait for a couple of the guys to start coming in the booth. Hopefully, we'll be able to have a chat with the Hypercar Pro winner, Mr. Dan Kirby. We'll see who comes down and whether or not people want to have a chat about it there. I'm probably sure they're praising him and Alec, and Dan for the win and Alec for the championship, and then fair dues to Eduardo Benica and things like that. So I think at the end of the day, it's been a great evening of racing. Has it been a classic by any shape or form? Absolutely not. But I think overall, it's been good, hasn't it? It's done what it needed to do, and for us up here, it's been an interesting one. But we've got Scar Pope waiting for you there as well, and whenever you're ready to have a chat with Scar.
I'll drag him in now then. Scar Pope, winner in the Hypercar AM category. 3rd win of the season for you, Scar. Fair to say, not the most thrilling of races. Looks relatively comfortable out in front for you. How pleased are you with that win?
With the car swap, I'm quite happy with it. The Lambo's been underrepresented this season, so I gave it a go, and very different experience, and much easier to save fuel. I was just like, cool, I'll go with that. So yeah, good fun.
Again, I mean, great consistency from you. You've been here for 8 races this season. You finished on the podium for 8 races. I mean, you have really showed some great pace. Looking forward towards the final weeks, are you hoping to get that 3rd win in a row, give you that little bit of boost of confidence towards the off season?
Yeah, I'm just overall hoping to get more confidence in the rear wheel drives at the moment, because I've been 4-wheel drive all season. I'm swapping to the Aston V12 for next year, so yeah, that's basically my plan. If I can get another win, awesome. But the more experience I get in a rear wheel drive on these tires is the better at the moment. But yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to Road Atlanta for sure.
Yeah, and you've a minimum at least consolidated P2 in the championship, so that's another great thing to take away with you. Before we let you go, Scar, anybody want to shout out onto the stream? Because of course we'd love to let you do that.
Mike Bell for the qualifying setup I used tonight. He had to help me out with that. Gave me a different view on the Lambo. And CMS and SDS and everyone who was racing tonight. Good fun. Cheers all.
Well, thanks, Scar. Congratulations again, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to you at the end of the final round. But congratulations for tonight, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Our Pope there, our winner in the Hypercar AM category, and I believe we can now speak to our Hypercar Pro winner in that race, who was Dan Kirby. Welcome in, Dan. Congratulations again. You jump around in all machinery. You still keep winning. I mean, how was that for you this evening? Were you going max pace? Was there a little bit you were leaving on the table?
I'd say a little bit of both. Kind of going back and forth, doing a lot of managing tires to make sure I didn't chew through them too fast. But I was still pushing pretty hard. Yeah.
And we've seen you in lots of machinery so far this season. GT3s, hypercars, different kinds of both, really. How comfortable was your experience this evening? Because I know that you've said before that some cars are easier to drive than others.
Yeah, this car worked pretty good here. It's the car I'm going to use on Saturday for the same race, so it's good practice and good information on what I have to do to manage the tires and all that.
And with one more round to go in the championship, of course, are you looking for yet another win? Of course, you're not fighting for any titles, but are you looking to pick up that final win of the season, as you've kind of been winning everywhere?
Yeah, we'll see. That's another shared race with Saturday, so for sure I'll be back in this car for some more practice, more learning, and we'll see how it goes. Should be fun.
Yeah, hopefully so. But congratulations. Before we let you go, anybody that you'd like to shout out on the stream?
Just everybody here for the awesome racing. That was super fun.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dan. Many thanks. Congratulations again. We'll hopefully speak to you at the end of the final race, but I'm sure you'll do your absolute best. So, congratulations, and yeah, speak to you soon.
Alrighty, thank you.
Kirby there, winner in the Hypercar Pro category. And that now leaves us with the GT3 Pro winner. And in that, it was William Shilting. So we will welcome in William to the broadcast booth. And congratulations, sir. A win on the board. It looked like you and Eduardo were trying to give it to each other at the end. What was going on there?
Yeah. Eduardo is a huge friend. We did like I did my first lap for tonight on the quali, so I didn't practice for the race, but I will spend like a whole month practicing on this track with other car, with the Ferrari and another mod, but it was a great race. Me and Benica, we did a great race. Like the whole race, just behind him, like a half second, and preceding him, and it was really fun. But that's it.
How pleased are you to pick up that win? Because, of course, you were second last time out. You've kind of been threatening it here and there. It must be nice to have a win on the in the standings column.
Yeah, very first win here at CMS, and the Beninka, I think he cut the track, and he was like on the limit with that of the track limit points, and I got to him on that, but I crossed the line without fuel, and Beninka just gave me some push.
That's a little bit of teamwork there from the both of you. But congratulations, William. Delighted to have been able to speak to you. Before we let you go, apart from Eduardo for helping you to the line, is there anybody else you'd like to shout out onto the stream?
Yeah, for sure. Beninka, thanks for everything. It was a great race. We have a lot of fun tonight, and it was amazing. And thanks for the stewards here for the uh, for the host that race and things like that. I mean, it's means a lot for the Factor 2 community, and things like that is really awesome. Thanks for that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks. Thank you, William. Congratulations on your win, and hopefully we'll speak to you after the season finale in a few weeks' time. So thank you, and we'll speak to you then. Brilliant. Great to speak to William Shilting there, our winner in the GT3 Pro category, and that leaves us just the final winner to talk to in the form of Ryan Pulbert Reyes, who won in the GT3 AM category. And Ryan, I think it's fair to say you've really given yourself a shot now. I mean, a little run of form from you over the last couple of weeks, a win a couple of weeks or a few rounds ago at Road America, a second place, and a win here. I mean, you must be feeling good at the moment.
Yeah, it's actually it's a surprise. This race was actually especially tough for the M4 because fuel usage and tire wear was pretty high, and I didn't think I would actually make top three. So kind of just happy, unexpected tonight.
Yeah, and I do believe officially you are still in with title contention, albeit slim. I think you'd require a couple of crashes to happen from some drivers in front of you. But I mean, how good is it to still be there when you've picked up what is now 78 points over the last three races? I mean, that's nearly 2/3 of your entire point tally for the season.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I actually kind of forgot that I was still like in a little bit of contention. My goal was to finish just top four. But I mean, of course, it's a long shot to get that first place. But I'm just happy where I'm at. So it's just a lot of practice and a lot of just learning the car. And again, I have to kind of shout out Alex and Mac, who are like my teammates and helping me practice and set up the car. Because without them, I wouldn't be able to drive the BMW the way I can drive it.
Yeah, and you drove it beautifully this evening. Does it give you that confidence going into Road Atlanta? Very different circuit, but is it one you're looking forward to?
Road Atlanta is one of my favorite tracks, so hoping that I get some good qualifying and place well in that. Yeah, I mean I don't know how the fuel usage is at that track, but hopefully I don't have to fuel manage and do a one stop like what I did here tonight because I crossed the line with 0.1 left in my tank. So
Well, I mean, you're cutting it fine, but you're getting the most points, so that's all that matters, Ryan. Before we let you go, anybody that you'd like to shout out on the stream?
yeah, again, just my buddies Alexander and Mac. Again, without them, I wouldn't be able to drive the car the way I could. Lots of practice, lots of setup, lots of time after work and all that. Also, like my friends and that watch the stream, that tune into you guys. It's nice to see them support the channel and support you guys as well. And also my girlfriend, so allowing me to put the time in and put the seat time. So as long as I get the permission, I'm good.
Nice stuff. Well done, Ryan. Hopefully, we speak to you at the end of the race out in Road Atlanta. But congratulations for tonight, yet another win.
Cool. Thanks. Cheers, guys.
Ryan, Paul, but Ray's there, our final winner of the night in the LMGT3 AM category. I think it's getting a bit late, James. Overall, that race, not going to be a classic. I think it's fair to say not going to be one that will live too long in the memory, but it will live longer in the memory of those who won it, particularly those who are keeping themselves in that title contention.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a purpose to this, right? It wasn't by any means a classic. And there was lots of people driving around on their own, and there weren't many battles at times and things like that. But for the people that have probably wrapped up the championships in Alec King, Jerry Chen, Eduardo Benica, they've all come out of this with something from it. But yeah, classic, no, as you say, won't live long in the memory, but we do have the great circuit of Road Atlanta to look forward to. So I'm really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and only 3 weeks away, so I don't think it would have this race would have lived too long in the memory anyway. With the next race pretty soon, and that will be the finale. You won't want to miss it here on either the JPB Broadcasting channel or also the CMS channel as well. It should be a cracker. We'll have some more Champions Ground, and we'll be able to surely speak to our champions. Many thanks to all of you who've watched along this evening, supported the channel, and have got involved in the chat. My thanks as well to James for being alongside me and for making the broadcast look fantastic. But that'll be all from us tonight here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We hope you enjoyed the evening's worth of racing, and you'll join us in 3 weeks' time for the season finale at Road Atlanta.